Hello and welcome to another episode of Cake Fight Presents The Making of Kaleidoscope. I'm writer, director, producer Paige Feldman. And this week, as every week, I'm taking you inside my process of making my debut feature film. We're going from idea to premiere in real time. So for the last 2 weeks, I've been talking all about my mood analysis, this amazing spreadsheet tool that I developed when I was a development executive to help give creatives and writers another perspective on their material. And now today, I'm going to show you what I do once I've made the mood analysis, made my observations, and figured out what I need to fix in my script. Now, obviously, Kaleidoscope, the first draft that I wrote, is 263 pages. So my primary goal, at least at first, is to cut it down to a reasonable size. That's 120 pages or less. Now, I'm not anticipating on this first pass, this first revision, getting to that 120 pages, but I do anticipate making a serious dent. The way, though, to cut down a script from 263 pages to 120 or less isn't just by shortening every scene. It's also by making sure that all the scenes that I have are scenes that I need, and all of the scenes that I have are in the right places. So one of the things that I noticed on my mood analysis is that the relationship shift, the moment when Lee and Jonah's relationship took a turn and changed and evolved and grew, there were about 15 of them, and the first one didn't happen until page 58. Now, page 58, even of a 263-page script, that's still way too late. We cut it in half. Page 30 for the relationship to change and evolve. No, this relationship, it's the center of the story. It needs to be changing and evolving from minute one. So what I'm doing today, I'm outside, away from my computer, and with the help of some index cards and my favorite structure book on writing a romantic comedy, I am going to re-outline Lee and Jonah's relationship and make sure that before I dive into this rewrite that everything is going to be in the right place, and also maybe find some problem moments. And when we get back from the titles, I'm gonna lay out the beats of the romantic comedy and find where the beats that I already have written into Kaleidoscope fit in, or really should fit in, because they might not be in the right place in my script. Now, re-outlining is an essential tool in my writer's toolkit. I write super long, and so I need something that's going to help me cut my length down while also keeping the story intact. So what re-outlining is my taking the scenes that already exist in my script. I'm done with the outline that I used to write. Now I'm taking what is actually there, putting it on index cards, and then reordering it. Now, a lot of the time when I'm using this tool, I will literally write out every single scene that is in a script on its own index card. The mood analysis is very helpful for that. If you made one, you can just sort of print out that description column, cut and paste those descriptions onto an index card, or even just cut them out and rejigger them. However, for this romantic comedy, and because, like I said, I noticed some real problems with the frequency and the locations of these relationship shifts, the times when Lee and Jonah's relationship moves to another level, I want to really focus on Lee and Jonah's changing relationship in this re-outline. I want to make sure all the beats in Lee and Jonah's relationship are, one, unique. That means that they're not shifting from angry to maybe enjoying each other a little bit twice, especially twice in a row. And I want to make sure that there is enough progression. Maybe I don't have enough beats, which I know you're thinking, like, your script is 263 pages and you won't shut up about it. How can you not have enough beats? There's 15 relationship shifts. Maybe I have 4 repeated beats, and I don't have that one that's going to shift them from happy and semi in love to, oh, things might take a dark turn. I don't know. We're going to find out. So what I've done before coming outside here today is written every relationship shift on an index card. And I actually have 17 in there because I realized I didn't include either of Lee and Jonah's meet cutes, either in the original party, the first time we see them on screen together, or when they see each other for the first time in the time loop. I didn't include either of those as relationship shifts, and those are important beats for a romantic comedy, so there's 17 cards here. What I didn't do, which is different from what I usually do, is I didn't write out all of the scene on these cards. I wanted to anonymize these scenes a little bit, because there is so much about this script that I love, despite it being too long. I didn't want to remember, oh, there's this great line in this scene, or, oh, this thing happens, I can't cut that, why it can't move to the front. I want to keep a completely open mind and make sure that just Lee and Jonah's relationship is progressing nicely. So instead of writing out whatever specifically happens, I wrote out like whatever argument they had. Lee and Jonah kiss and make up. I have no idea when this is in the script. I mean, I can guess, but that's not the point of it. It's all very vague. Also, to further anonymize it, and this might be taking it too far, but you know what, I'm all in, is instead of writing a scene number or a page number when these scenes take place on the back of these index cards, I created a list of randomly generated numbers, 263 of them, and I lined them up on a spreadsheet next to the numbers from 1 to 263, and then I had my fiance translate the page number of a scene to the random number. So I have a spreadsheet of this list, and this scene right here is 559. Can see that, or 554. I'm gonna have to ask him. So I will, once I've reordered these and seen where everything is, I'm gonna go back inside. I'm gonna check my work with the random number generator. It's not a contest. I'm not trying to guess where these scenes go. It's just trying to figure out where they're supposed to be. So I'll see what needs to move where. Okay, and one final thing I did to anonymize this, which is a little bit nuts, also is I shuffled them after they had the numbers on the back. So there is no way for me to tell which of these cards was the first relationship shift, beyond just trying to remember, and I don't want to because I don't want to spoil the fun. So here are the cards we're going to use to outline. But I am not just going to be kind of ordering them and then reordering them and looking at it like I might usually, because I'm going specifically into this exercise with a goal of making sure that Lee and Jonah's relationship is progressing in a way that makes sense for the romantic comedy genre and for this film. So since I'm in a genre that is formulaic's not necessarily a bad thing, it just means it follows a formula. Why not lean into that, especially for this exercise? So I have more index cards. I love index cards, and they have all of the beats of the romantic comedy on them. I made all of those cards off of the Billy Mernit book, Writing the Romantic Comedy, which is a fantastic book on the romantic comedy, its progression, and its structure. You can see, like, it's a little bit, I don't know if you can see, but it's been used. The spine's a little bit broken in. So he lays out in his book 7 romantic comedy beats that are in some way in every romantic comedy. First, the chemical equation, a scene or sequence identifying core traits of the hero, heroine, and what they're lacking, meaning what the hero or heroine are lacking. Next, the meet cute. He calls it a cute meet, but because I watched The Holiday and have first heard about it as a meet cute, I'm calling it a meet cute. Inciting incident that brings our love interests together and into conflict. One thing you'll note about all of these is that each of these beats is about how the love story relates to a conflict between the main characters, which is something that's really important to remember and something I feel like I might have forgotten when I was drafting. So I'm really glad that I'm doing this, if for no other reason than I having this refresher of what really drives a romantic comedy, which is love through conflict. Number 3, the sexy complication, a new development that raises stakes and defines the protagonist's goals. It sets the love interest at cross purposes and sets their inner emotions at odds with their goal. And that can be an either or, their interests are at cross purposes or their emotions are at odds with the goal. But More is better, more conflict is better usually, and this is also traditionally the end of Act 1. The hook. A situation that binds our love interests together, raises sexual tension, and ensures they can't be parted, at least for now. That's traditionally the midpoint. The swivel. A point of no return, the romance is directly in conflict with our love interest's individual goals. Our protagonists must choose one or the other, meaning either the love or their goals. And this is traditionally the end of Act 2. Number 6, the dark moment. The decision made in the swivel leads to disaster. The loss of the relationship and or the protagonist's goals. Again, both is best. And his 7th and final beat is called Joyful Defeat. The love interests reconcile after making some sacrifice or compromise. So those are the 7 romantic comedy beats according to Billy Mernit and this book, which I highly recommend. But there's one that I feel is missing, and I found that Nicola Doherty, who is a fantastic author of romantic comedy books, both for young adults and adults. It's young adult books, but like they're for everybody, guys. And that's a beat that has taken effect more in more modern romantic comedies. So I mentioned The Holiday, and this beat that Nicola pointed out and points out on this blog post that she has is in The Holiday as well. And if you've seen that movie, you'll know this moment. If you haven't seen that movie, go watch that movie after you finish this video. You won't regret it. So Kate Winslet's character has been hung up on this jerk guy named Jasper. She's like in the middle of her dark moment. Her relationship's fallen, and Jasper comes and says, "Hey, run away with me," even though he's getting married. And Kate Winslet says, hell no, I'm good enough on my own. I'm meant to live a different life, not pining after you. Go suck an egg, Jasper. Nancy Meyers worded it way better than I just said it, but that's the general idea. This moment happens when she's in the middle of her dark moment before the joyful defeat. And that moment is, Nicola Doherty calls it something else, but I like to call it, I can make it on my own. Love interests realize that whether or not they have a happy ever after romantically, they're going to succeed at their goals, grow and change, and be the people they want to be. So that is a beat that goes between dark moment and joyful defeat. So I will put it there. So those are all the classic beats of the romantic comedy, plus one extra that I really like and is important to me as I write romantic comedies about people who can both follow their dreams and also follow their hearts. Now, next step is for me to lay those index cards out on the table, take these scene cards that describe the relationship shifts that I've already written in Kaleidoscope, and categorize them. Outlined, and it's looking like I got some problems. So I've taken my camera off of the sticks in order to be a little bit more mobile while I go through what I found in this re-outlining process, because I'm gonna want to show a lot of the cards, but also I don't want to be a stranger to y'all. So we're gonna take a look from up above at all of this beautiful index card outlining. First thing I notice is that there is really nothing under I can make it on my own. I know that that's not really a problem in this script because in those moments, Lee and Jonah aren't together, and so their relationship isn't shifting. Their relationships with themselves are shifting, but not between each other, so I'm not worried about that. Second thing I notice is, oh my God, look at the midpoint. It is absolutely slammed with stuff. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Holy crud, 5 different situations that could be the midpoint, the hook, the place where their relationship is taken to the next level. Now, obviously, that doesn't necessarily mean that I have 5 midpoints. I mean, it could, my script's long enough. what that does mean is that I have a lot of moments, at least 5, where Lee and Jonah's relationship is only progressing insofar as how much they like each other. Everything else, especially the parts about conflict, is pretty sparse. Okay, so let's start with a sexy complication. It's the moment where the protagonists are set at cross purposes, the love interests are set at cross purposes, and they are conflicted about their potential romance. 2 of these, though, I wasn't entirely sure where to put them. This Lee and Jonah stop arguing and agree to work together. That was 100% like, yeah, sexy complication. They're gonna try to work together. They're at cross purposes, or they could be. I need to remember to put them at cross purposes if they're not. But these 2, so I'll throw on the ground here. Cordial to beginning to share details of their lives, fears, and hopes. What that means is that Lee and Jonah shift from being just sort of cordial to having a greater intimacy. That could kind of fit under this hook situation. A situation that binds our love interests together, raises sexual tension, and ensures they can't be parted, at least for now. That's one that's a little bit problematic. And then secondly, Lee and Jonah talk outside the time loop. That is an interesting occurrence. I put it under sexy complication ultimately, and that was one that I was having a real trouble trying to figure out where it belonged, but I put it under sexy complication ultimately because so much of the conflict within this story is about how Lee and Jonah are different people within the time loop than they are outside as they're living their real life. And so it's the merging of this fantasy world where nothing that they do matters and doesn't really have consequences or repercussions in the real world to a real world that has real consequences and real repercussions and real people who could get hurt if something happens. So that's an interesting complication. I don't know if it quite fits under sexy complication, though. It could definitely be more under the swivel. The swivel is the point of no return. The romance is directly in conflict with our love interest's individual goals. So yeah. Could be a swivel. And speaking of the swivel, that also has 3 elements under it. Lee opens up emotionally with Jonah. Instead of choosing physical affection, Lee and Jonah in the real world, Lee defends him and Jonah deflects her affection. And Lee and Jonah argue about how the other is cowardly in a way. It feels like there's a lack of respect for themselves, and the argument ends in sex. So 2 of those, Lee and Jonah in the real world, and Lee and Jonah argue about how the other is cowardly. Those are both 100% swivels. Lee opens up emotionally with Jonah instead of choosing physical affection. I'm not quite sure. That could also be in the hook, because it's something that binds the 2 characters for the time being. Vulnerability like that, opening yourself up, can lead to potential hurt. That one is a little bit iffy and is, again, about these 2 people coming closer together. I'm just gonna move that out and put it with the ones where I don't know where they belong. Then we have the dark moment. Lee and Jonah have a huge argument and break up. So what we have in the dark moment is a really great fight. And this fight, the writing itself on a micro level is not there, but macro, it's good. I know exactly what fight that is. Despite trying to anonymize all of these scenes, I know what scene that one is. And it's a good scene. It's a good dark moment. So dark moment is taken care of. There's a great scene. I think that's solid. And same goes for chemical equation and the meet cute. And so let's just look at those real quick. Chemical equation, the scene or sequence identifying core traits of the hero, heroine, and what they're lacking. And I have that as the meet cute at the initial party, which is not a meet cute necessarily. It's just Lee and Jonah talk to each other at that initial party. You see both of their passions, both of their problems, and their hate for each other initially. And then second, we have the meet cute. The inciting incident that brings our love interest together and into conflict. And there's a moment in the time loop where they see each other from across the room. So that moment has been constructed, is there. What is going on with the focus? Nope, my face is right. Why is my face? There we go. So the moment in the initial time loop there, meet cute, does exist. but it doesn't really bring them into conflict as much as I want it to, so I know I have to fix that. But that scene exists, there's something to work with there, and it's definitely in the right place. Finally, let's go to the last two beats. We have, like I already said, I can make it on my own. We don't have anything there because Lee and Jonah are making it on their own. And I've only outlined the beats where Lee and Jonah are together and their relationship together is shifting. So that's empty, that's no problem. And then we go into Joyful Defeat, which is the very end. The love interests reconcile after making some sacrifice or compromise, happy ever after. There are three kind of joyful defeat scenes. First, Lee shows up to Jonah's comedy show. This is at the very end when they've been apart and Lee sees a butterfly on her way to the airport and decides she needs to see him. Lee and Jonah get engaged. It's like a post-credit scene. And Lee and Jonah kiss and make up, which happens, I know, after the comedy show. So what I'm seeing here, the pattern that I'm seeing, because I have all of these cards in the hook, all 5 of these cards, in a scene that binds our romantic interests together. Plus I have these 3 scenes that I'm not quite sure where they belong, and some of them could be in this hook. So I've created 2 characters who don't like each other, but I haven't created characters who are in conflict with one another. Not liking someone is fine. Being in conflict with someone means that you have a problem with them that is active and disruptive of your life. And that's the kind of energy that I need to bring to the script, and that's not there yet. So when I initially set out to do this exercise, I was sure I was going to find out that there were a bunch of scenes, a bunch of relationship shifts that were kind of in the wrong place. And that may or may not have occurred. I'm gonna go inside after I finish filming and I'm gonna check to see where these scenes all actually fit. But the thing that I found here, the important thing about all this, is not whether my scenes are in the right order, but the fact that I don't have an underlying conflict driving the relationship forward. Lee and Jonah need to be in conflict with one another, and instead of worrying about whether these relationship shift scenes are in the right place, I'm gonna worry about finding the conflict between them and drawing that out and help making sure that that drives the story. Now I have a really clear path forward, and that's to trim this script down, trim the fat, trim a lot of these scenes, but also in this rewrite, and perhaps even more importantly, look at Lee and Jonah's relationship with an eye to add conflict and ensure that that conflict is the thing that's driving that story forward and pushing them closer together in their relationship. So that's the thing that I'm focusing on now, is this giant first revision. And next week I will come back and share all of my progress with you, plus talk about some movies that I've been watching that are helping inspire me as I move forward with this rewrite, on questions that I have that aren't related to Lee and Jonah, like what the heck to do about Devin, who is a character who I thought I was going to kill off but realized I couldn't. That's gonna be next week though. Thank you all so much for watching this week, and can't wait to come back and share more about the making of Kaleidoscope with all of you. So I love using structure. I can't stop looking at that hummingbird.